Today's episode is brought to you by Bones Coffee Company. You can forget about boring coffee when you drink Bones Coffee. Not only do they offer a variety of flavors such as strawberry cheesecake and maple bacon, they are a family-owned company that puts great detail not only in their coffee, but in the artwork that comes on each individual bag. Bones Coffee has a coffee club that will deliver your favorite coffee to your door every month. If that wasn't enough, they also have some amazing swag to offer. Check out Bones Coffee Company today. I'll have my affiliate links in the show notes for you. Hi guys, I thought in the middle of all of this, I am going to jump on and do a quick questioning the narrative video. There's a lot of animosity around Buford Pusser right now because, as you know, the TBI announced here a couple weeks ago that they were exhuming Pauline Pusser's body. And then, of course, all of everything starts flying again. Everyone starts taking their sides in their corners and ready to fight. And I'm kind of one of those, I have my own concept of what I think happened and what I don't think happened. But in reality, nobody knows until the TBI announces what they find in the autopsy. Now, as a born and bred Texan, I believe that you should be allowed to question the narrative. Now, if you don't agree with something and you find something that makes you question the narrative, whether you agree with me or not, or whether I agree with you or not, we as Americans are supposed to have the right to free speech. We're supposed to have the right to question the narrative. And so, you have some people coming on saying, well, so-and-so's doing this and so-and-so's causing this problem or and I'm sitting here going, I'm questioning the narrative. And this is where we need to understand that we're supposed to be allowed to question the narrative. And so I have two little things that make me question. The first one is if Buford Pusser was a bully with a badge and just as corrupt as the bad guys, there is one incident that I feel he would have acted differently if he was indeed that corrupt. Now, I've never thought Buford Pusser was a saint. I've never thought he lived up to the legend that Hollywood created, because I know for a fact, and everybody does, that a lot of the movies were fictionalized. And so I've never thought of that. I've never gone into this thinking. In fact, I'd never seen the first two movies, and the third one I seen on an accident. I seen it because I was a fan of The Rock at the time, and I watched that years and years ago. I didn't even know it was about a real person. So I didn't come into this case thinking that Buford Pusser was a folk hero. Even I didn't come into this. I actually came into this from the side. There was another cold case that I was working on for a victim's family member who thought their case might be tied into his. Now, I'm not so sure about that, but that's what got me involved in this whole saga of Buford Pusser. So I don't have I'm always kind of a middle of the road type person, because I feel like that's where the most truth is somewhere in the middle. So no, first thing I want to say is the TBI, I looked up some of the rules and regulations and laws and things. The TBI, to get a body exhumed, first of all, had to have a reason. They had to have some evidence that they had to present to a judge, and that judge had to sign off on this. This is not something that is taken lightly. It's something that they had to have something. Now, so that doesn't mean that the rumor mill caused this. Okay. So I don't agree with that. I'm questioning the narrative about that. I don't believe the rumor mill caused them to exhume a body. I do believe that they have, some kind of evidence has come forward so that's the first narrative that I question. They also have to have someone there, usually from the funeral home or along those lines, because they have to make sure that everything is done according to the guidelines. There's an environmentalist type company that they have to get involved with, because they would want to make sure keep everything safe for everyone. And then they have to make sure that other nearby graves and things aren't disturbed. Now, I have heard a rumor that There were some ashes on top of her grave, and I don't know what they've done about that. That is one thing I have no evidence to. I don't know what they did, so I don't have anything to say about that other than I've heard that. But the TBI does have to have permission, and then of course in the newspaper articles they did say that they had some of the family's permission. So this is where I want to question that first narrative. Did the rumor mill cause this? No, I don't think the rumor mill caused this. I don't think that's the case. Second narrative I want to question. If Buford Pusser was so corrupt, there was a story where Buford Pusser's family was getting threatening calls while Buford was gone, and his family was getting threatened, and they were going to be killed and left in the swamp. Okay, that was the threat. Well, Buford Pusser believed that Towhead White was the one that did that, and so he went and grabbed Towhead White from a bar and arrested him, threw him in the back of his patrol car, and drove him out to said swamp. There is where you find out there's a little bit of vigilante in Buford Pusser, whether you'd like to admit it or not. He takes Towhead White at gunpoint and makes him crawl through the swamps. Now we're talking about someone who wears $1,300 suits and crocodile shoes, and so but he made Towhead White crawl through the swamp on his hands and knees, handcuffed at gunpoint. Then he lets him go. So here's my thought. Is that legal? No. Is that vigilante? Yes. Is that something that the parent in me kind of goes, yes? Yeah, I have to admit, because someone's threatening to kill my daughter, I would want to run them through the swamp too. But here's where I question the narrative. If he was as corrupt as some people let on, why didn't he just kill Towhead and leave his sorry butt in the swamp? Okay, so this is something, like I said, I'm just questioning the narrative. So don't hate on me here. I'm just questioning. If he was corrupt, as they say, why didn't he just leave Towhead in the swamp? Okay, so second narrative I've questioned. Third narrative I want to question is I was told that during the ambush of Pauline Pusser that it could not possibly have been an ambush. It was totally and completely set up because there's no possible way that the shell casings of that gun would have ended up on the right side of the road towards Pauline Pusser. Would have been her side of the road, if the passenger side, basically. Well, this is where I thought, okay, no possible way. Let me look into this. Okay. And this is the way I do. I take people's information. I take their evidence. I went up and I looked up the newspaper. They gave me the newspaper it came from. Okay, so I looked that up. All right, it does say these shell casings were found on the right, towards the right side of the road. Well, this is where you think, okay, well, if the gun was pointing straight out the window, the bullets would have gone, the casings would have gone into the back seat. But this is a very, very heavy gun. So I believe that it was probably wedged in between the window and the side of the car until they got to a certain point right directly in line with the car, the target car, and then they would have moved it back. So you found 14 shell casings. We know for a fact that the type of gun that this was used was a M1918 Browning automatic rifle, a BAR, a BAR. Now, those magazines hold 20 rounds, and I don't know of anyone that would, it wouldn't make sense to go plan on hitting somebody and not fill up your gun. And so it takes 20 rounds. I'm thinking they probably had 20 rounds in there, and they may have had even more to put in. But here's the thing. You've got 20 rounds, we only find 14. So if Buford Pusser was pulling over his car in front of that graveyard, this is the second part of the so-called ambush. Okay. He pulls over and he parks in the middle of the road in his lane. Then no. When the ambush car goes by, the shooter would have had the gun here shooting towards the car. Okay. And then as it went by, it would have pulled it here and shot straight. Okay. Here's the thing. All of those bullets would have ended up closer to the middle of the road or the left-hand side of the road. So you're thinking, okay, well, yeah, that makes perfect sense. The bullets, the casings could not have possibly ended up there. They wouldn't have gone through the car and ended up in the pavement, right? Well, that's true if the car was still there. But here's what we need to understand. The car was pulled off of the road. If the car, Buford Pusser, pulled over, he wouldn't have stopped in the middle of the road. He pulled off into the grass. If his car was in the grass, why would the ambush car still swing out to the left-hand side of the road to shoot him? No, they would have probably stayed more in their lane or right in the middle of the road, right? So if the shooter's car is coming through the middle of the road, and for a moment in time, those bullets are going out the window, where would they land? They would land on the right side of the road. And there's only 14. So I contend that the gun was moved as they got closer to the car, and as they come up to the side of the car, then it turned, and I say the last 6 casings were probably in the backseat of the car. So there is one possible scenario of how it could have ended up on the right side of the road. Am I saying that's what happened? I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm just giving you all the different evidence and let you guys make the decision for yourself. But here's the next thing you need to understand about that ambush. By the time the police were there and they were gathering evidence, Buford Pusser's car wasn't still there. See, he didn't stay there and the police come to him. He took off trying to get back to town. So they actually had to go out there, find where he pulled off. Otherwise, those pictures of where you see them working, you would have seen where exactly Buford Pusser's car was. And if it was still there, then obviously we would have an answer. It goes back to, all this, the reason why police should have body cams all the time. If you have video evidence, then you know exactly where things are located. And so this is just another one of me questioning the narrative of what's going on in this case. Do I think that, that there is no possible way the shell casings could ended up on the right side of the road? I don't believe that, because I have just laid out one way that it could have happened. Now, am I saying that's definitely what happened? I don't know. I'm just giving you an understanding that there is a logical way with the way the cars were laid, the way the cars were driven and where they were located, that they could have ended up there. And so that's just me questioning the narrative. You can agree with me. You can disagree with me. This is America. I do say, everyone, in your comments, be respectful enough to know that there's still family around, that there's still people who care what happened to Pauline, and they need justice. So just be respectful enough in your comments. Discussion is fine. Like I said, I may not agree with you. You may not agree with me, but we still need to be an adult enough to understand that we don't have to hate each other just because we disagree. We can still be friends. We can still, I have a lot of friends that don't believe the same way I do. And we're still good friends. It doesn't matter. But we want to keep everything respectful for Pauline's sake. And I am glad that the TBI is doing something now. I hope that we get some results from the autopsy, because I really, really know that, Pauline's family deserves to know what happened. And whatever side of the fence you are on about Buford Pusser really doesn't matter. What you think, what I think really doesn't matter. It's a matter of what kind of answer can we provide for this hurting family. So that's me questioning the narrative. I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.